From John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, Virginia, this is TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner. Alongside me, as he always is, THI publisher Andrew Jones. And Andrew, about an hour ago, saw Carolina come to this building, a building that's not treated them very kindly in the past few years, a team that they've really struggled to beat over the past few years, and another defeat for Carolina, back-to-back defeats, 56-47 to Virginia on this very court, AJ. And I think the biggest thing today is Carolina's scoring woes just continue. Carolina scores under 50 points, 2 consecutive games, first time since 1948 since that's happened at Carolina. I mean, this team right now, players talk about in the locker room, which you can see on the YouTube channel you're on right now, got all the interviews up, but this team just can't throw the ball in the basket, and that's their biggest struggle right now. And if they don't get that fixed, it's going to be a long season. It's going to continue to rack up losses.
Yeah, and I asked several of them in the locker room after the game, what needs to happen first? Because they say, oh, we're just missing shots, we got to hit shots. B-Rob said that, Leaky said that, Cole says that, but what needs to come first to create sort of a trickle-down effect, if you will, where, okay, you do this well, and then you do that well, and do that well, and it leads to more open shots. And they basically just said, we got to run our stuff, we got to make shots. They're frustrated right now.
Yeah.
I think we saw an example of that in the second half with those fouls that they committed on shooters as the shot clock was winding down. Regardless of whether they were fouls or not, they shouldn't even be in position to have the foul call. And I think it sort of affected the mindset of this team during the course of the game. But Roy said it afterward. I mean, they're not scoring. He's frustrated. I asked him what his level of frustration is and what is most frustrating, and he eventually said the head coach's inability to get the guys to do on the court what he's asking them to do. At some point, we're going to have to ask the question is, does he have enough guys on the court capable of doing what he's asking them to do? And I would imagine that that's going through his mind a little bit. As he's sitting there watching them go through terrible stretches. Both teams were horrible the first 10 minutes of the game. In fact, this crowd, which has seen a lot of that before, and they're okay with it because they feel this building up when they see low-scoring basketball games, stretches where teams don't put the ball in the basket. Even they were grumbling some at one point because of how bad both teams were offensively. UVA at least was able to pick it up. They were able to score on some offensive rebounds, which they did in a stretch in the second half when Carolina was awful that we'll get to in a second. But the offensive woes are there. Carolina, Cole Anthony, 0 assists, 6 turnovers. They're not getting a whole lot of good looks. A couple of guys had shot opportunities and passed them up, like Andrew Platek. It speaks to his lack of confidence right now. It was more of the same we've seen when this team doesn't play well, and that's been often lately, Jacob. I think
it has been.
I mean, their defense was pretty solid. Now, UVA's not a very good offensive team, but I thought when you looked at the way the Tar Heels play with the principles and everything else, they defended pretty well for most of this game.
I'd agree, yeah.
But there was a stretch in the second half when everything kind of left them, and it really, I think after a while, when you go back and you cannot score, and you're a program that is built on running and scoring and lighting that thing up and basically wearing teams down because of your ability to do those things, when that's not working, it just kind of throws everything out of whack. And as a result, they're 6-3, and they've lost 2 straight games, like you said. Under 50 points for the first time in consecutive games since 1948.
It's a long time.
That's
a long time.
Really amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And AJ, to kind of just speak on, you kind of talked about it there, but those second half woes that Carolina had, I'll let you explain it because I knew that he's a stats guy. He's got all the stats up in here, but
I don't have anything else up in here, so there's plenty of room.
Nah, you're funny or something. But what happened in the second half is, Carolina once again they get close and they just go cold. I remember we were in the media room after the game, and you were looking at the box score and the play-by-play, and I just remember hearing you were just like, wow. And you were like, is that real? And then then you go and chart it, and you're like, that is actually real. So AJ, explain what happened in that second half where Carolina gets close, and they go ice cold, and they only got up 4 shots or something like that in that stretch?
I caught myself saying wow.
Yeah,
that's how many times I said wow, and I said because it's mind-boggling. Excuse me, it's mind-boggling to think that this program, with its pedigree, would actually go through a stretch like that. But let's go back to Wednesday night for a second.
Yeah.
Carolina, Cole hit a couple threes. They cut it to 39-36 with 15:57 left against Ohio State. Ohio State outscores them 35-12 the rest of the way. The Tar Heels were really bad.
Cold, yeah.
Okay, tonight, Andrew Platek gets a reverse layup to cut it to 39-35 with 10:36 left. The next time Carolina scored a field goal, 3 minutes remained, and they were down 17, 55-38. That field goal was a jumper by Cole. He made it 55-40. In that 7-minute and 36-second stretch, Carolina attempted 4 shots.
Yeah,
they were 0 for 4 from the floor. They were 2 for 6 from the free throw line, and they allowed 6 of Virginia's 11 offensive rebounds during that stretch. They also fouled the shooter as the shot clock was winding down. I think 3 of the times were during that stretch as well. Everything went wrong, and we've seen 2 games in a row against good opponents. Everything go wrong at one time for this team. That's an alarming stretch for me.
It is, yeah.
You know, we've seen every team goes through stretches like that. Okay, the best team in America is going to have some ugly stretches. They've done it 2 times in a row, and it was as if they had no way to stop it. Cole looked extremely frustrated during that stretch. He took the first 2 shots. They missed the front end of a one-on-one, so really 2 for 6 becomes in a way 2 for 7, if you think of it in that terms, which coaches do. So that was a terrible stretch. That's kind of where the game was decided. I mean, as poorly as they were playing against Ohio State, they were 1 bucket away with 15 minutes left. As poorly as they played today, they were 2 buckets away with 10.5 minutes left.
Yeah. And
then boom, 16-3 run by UVA, 35-12 by Ohio State the other night. To come in the second half, which is a half that UNC has always been a better team than in the first half, that's alarming, and it's a really bad sign, in my opinion.
It is, and AJ, kind of, I think the biggest thing from the locker room, being inside the locker room after the game, interviewed some of the players, was Cole's frustration after the game, and a lot of overrated chants in this building as well throughout the game. And I mean, granted, didn't have the best game of his career. Nobody on Carolina had a good game today, really, when it comes down to it. But Cole fouled a few guys on some shots, got frustrated about that. I was sitting courtside taking photos, do a little bit of video for us, and I remember 2 or 3 instances where he's talking to the ref, he's frustrated. And granted, some of these calls I think were a little bit questionable, especially on some of these shooting fouls, but then we see it in the locker room where, you know, Cole's taking a little bit longer to get ready, and you can tell he's just frustrated. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing from the locker room that I took away. I didn't even get a chance to talk to Cole, but, you know, I peeked over, and, you know, it seemed like it took him a few minutes to even be available to talk. So you could just see on his face how frustrated he was. And not only could you see it in the locker room, but you could see it out here on this court.
He took a while. He was facing a locker, getting everything out. He even got his jacket on underneath his suit. And I've been around a long time. You just kind of let the kid have his space.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to talk to him. He needs to talk to us. But, you know, you wait a couple minutes, let him do his thing, let him get know he's getting his thoughts ready, how he was going to answer the obvious questions. And he did, and he was very upset, very frustrated. And in fact, when I asked him, you know, aside from losing, what was most frustrating, he basically said it's not fun.
Yeah.
And he was very adamant. It's not fun.
No.
And I asked him about fouling those shooters, and he said those weren't fouls. He was very adamant about that. This is one of those moments you look back on maybe in a couple of months from now, and you say, okay, Cole learned a lot that week because, well, we've seen visual frustration from him, the facial expressions on the floor. We saw that Wednesday night. We saw a lot of it tonight. Roy even kind of hinted on about how Cole might be pressing a little bit because no one's getting open. Someone's got to shoot the ball. Might as well be him driving, getting contact, throwing that thing up off the backboard. Maybe they get a putback. They didn't get really any of those tonight. So he's 19. He's a true freshman. Yeah. I think after the Notre Dame game, people expected that every night. Yes. We said that wasn't going to happen every night.
It's not going to happen, no.
I think people have rightfully might think he would have done more the last few games, but you got to understand he's 1 of 5 on the floor. And if the other guys aren't getting open, and the other guys aren't hitting shots when they get open, and defenses are putting so much focus on him, it's going to make things even that much more difficult.
Yeah, you can't do
I actually thought what was interesting late in the game when Roy finally put in, and I say finally because they're finally ready, finally healthy enough, Jeremiah Francis and Anthony Harris. Yeah, Jeremiah Francis was on the ball. Cole moved to the 2. Their first possession, Cole got a wide open 3 from the left wing, and it was an air ball.
Yeah.
I think that kind of encapsulates the mind at that point in time in the game, the level of frustration, and how the best way to learn from this is to learn from it and then move forward. And they got a week where they get exams. Maybe exams are the best thing for these guys right now.
Might be.
They get to shake the basketball stuff from them for a while, and they get back next week in Carmichael against Wofford. And they'll have an opportunity to begin the process of rebuilding this thing. The good thing, if there is one, is that Armando played tonight, so he's healed, and he showed a lot of courage that Roy talked about after the game. They got Francis and Harris back, so at least their bodies, their options. And if Francis or Harris or both are going to be on the ball, and Cole's going to be off the ball more, we might see how things change a little bit. They must grow from this.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's where they can start growing. Learn from the mistakes and see, hey, we got 2 more guys we can use. Can't hurt to play them.
Exactly.
Can't hurt to see what they could do. and certainly giving Cole opportunities to be Cole would help this team. 0 assists, 6 turnovers. Roy said he doesn't think he's ever had a guy do that.
No.
And he's a great player. He'll be a lottery pick next year, maybe the first 2 or 3 players picked.
Yeah.
This is just one game, and for this team, it's the second game in a terrible stretch. They got to get better from it.
They do.
And the only way to get better from it is to learn and not just knock down shots, but as we said the other day, and Roy's talked about it a lot this week, and I'm going long-winded on this, but this is important. He started telling everybody, almost outlining what was going wrong with the offense during Tuesday's presser, and he kind of went back into it again in Friday's presser. It's not just missing shots. It's not just guys not coming off screens or screening well. It's a composite of all kinds of things, and they now must begin the process of fixing that.
Yeah, a couple of tough days of the office this week for Carolina. 2 straight losses. The last one coming here against Virginia, 56-47. For TarHeelIllustrated.com, I've been Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. We'll have plenty of stuff coming this week. Obviously, the bowl game getting announced. You'll be in Annapolis on December 27th, right? I think that's the date at noon, I believe. So a lot of fun things, a lot of exciting things to look forward to, but we won't be back covering basketball, at least during the game, until next weekend against Wofford. But thank you guys for watching. As always, be sure to like, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.